So I'm here with Don Guardian, the Assemblyman-elect from Atlantic County. We're here in Atlantic City, where, Don, you were the former mayor. You're actually back in your hometown as a winner on Election Day. How does it feel?
It feels great. I wanted to be back in a position where I could help my hometown and South Jersey and the other constituencies that I represent, obviously. It's exciting to be able to go to Trenton and to be able to work in Washington, D.C. as well, to make sure that we get some funding for the state, for South Jersey, for Atlantic City that we deserve.
So we got billions of dollars coming out of Washington, D.C. We were chatting earlier, and you're telling me that a big part of this particular League of Municipalities is like figuring out how are we going to distribute all of that boatload of money that's coming to New Jersey from Washington. So how are you going to make sure that Atlantic City gets its fair share?
So that's a good point, Jay. I've got to be understanding a profile and courage kind of a concept there and things. So I need to be working with assemblymen and senators, Republican, Democrats, independents all over the state to try to explain how we've got a couple of projects that I think are excellent that would be good for South Jersey and for the state of New Jersey long term, probably for the kids that haven't been born yet. So things like a coastal resiliency center that would really benefit the entire country is one of those type programs that would be really far thinking, figuring out what we do with rising tidal waters, how we protect our shores, what do we do with our coastlines, bringing the scientists together from all over the country in one location, and then being able to provide that type of knowledge for college students, both undergraduate and graduate students, as we create a whole new environment to protect our environment. Another one that is beyond our local grasp is the back bays filling in. We have an exceptionally good clamming fleet most people don't even know about. So we want to protect that. So it's not just for the guys that can afford an expensive boat to go fishing in the summer. This is a great fishing industry that we want to be able to preserve as well. And then when I was still mayor, the last year I was down in Washington, D.C., talking about widening the boardwalk from about Boardwalk Hall, which is where it now is down, all the way to the Margate border.
Okay.
16 feet width that would be dedicated only for bicycling. And the whole idea was we would be able to provide a safe environment for kids to go to the university, living anywhere in Ventnor or Atlantic City, and we would be able to provide a safe environment that doesn't pollute for anybody that works in any of the casinos along the boardwalk. So there's a couple of the projects that I think long-term are good. The other one is we have a great start over at our international airport, where we have next generation technology that we started with the county through Denny Levinson several years ago that needs some funding to be able to expand it. So I think that's a long-term, bigger pictures that I think would be great. Then of course, like everybody else, let's take a look at our roads and our bridges, North Jersey, Central Jersey, South Jersey, that were built in the 20s and 30s, as well as the roadways that were built in the 70s, but not as strong as the ones that were built in the 20s. So I think those are all the areas that I have a concern with. When I was on the door-to-door campaigning, and I hit just about 3,000 homes
wow.
At this time in 17 communities.
Okay.
And certainly you would think that would be drastically different from people who are more prone to support agriculture and protection of that to people along the coast, but some areas resounded. They are all very upset about taxes. They're upset about seniors that are just leaving here as soon as they can and going to the Carolinas or Florida because they don't want to have to pay state income tax on their retirement money. Safety is a big issue, and job creation after the pandemic is over. So we see more and more robotic equipment that's being used that are going to be taking over jobs for non-skilled workers. So how do we prepare that workforce there? And then finally, education. We know that our high schools do a pretty good job if kids are continuing on their education path through undergraduate or graduate school. We're doing a pretty bad job with providing the skills that they're going to need if they want to be able to go to work right after high school. So I think that's an emphasis that I will place on. And that's because I'm coming from Atlantic City and from Atlantic County. On bigger picture, the LGBTQ, I'm excited to be the only LGBTQ representative in Trenton. We need to improve that over the next couple of elections.
1 out of 120, you're a Republican, so it's kind of ironic that a Republican actually claimed that mantle. The Democratic version of LGBT equality is pretty expansive, but it does not seem to include electing us to office. And here you are, the Republicans did it the first time they really tried. Now, I've heard a lot of crazy stuff come out of the GOP caucus over the years. What do you think having like a moderate like you, who's also a gay person, is going, like, what influence do you think you might have on your caucus, which frankly is the source of like a lot of anti-gay rancor over the years?
I'm going to do my very best. I think because of my upbringing and because of my close ties with things like Boy Scouting and Rotary, these are groups that are about as conservative as you can get, and 50 years ago were certainly anti-gay, to say the least. And so here I am among them, a guy they like, someone that they see as their friend, as a fellow Italian, as a fellow Eagle Scout, and now all of a sudden they're realizing that I'm also a gay man and things, and so they have a different perspective, and they're asking you questions that they would never have asked before. So I'm going to do my very best to be working one-on-one with not only my caucus, meaning Republicans in the Assembly, but all the Assemblymen and the Senators, to make sure that they realize that there's inequality when we talk about the LGBT community, and it's our role to improve that.
So you were in one of the most competitive races in New Jersey this election cycle. Your opponents threw millions of dollars. $7 million. Now imagine like what we could do with that $7 million. Well, the mind reels when I think about how we could have better spent that money besides trying to tear you down. But you withstood $7 million of negative advertising, and you won by quite a big margin. So it seems like you got the Republican vote, you got a lot of Democratic votes, and you probably got a lot of votes from independents as well. Do you see all of those different constituencies claiming a little bit of ownership over your victory? Because I saw a lot of people that played a small part being very excited about it.
Yes. So the 17 towns, we don't have the results for 2 of the towns, but all the other towns, I won over my competitors, every single town. So it was exciting to see that. The other 2 are more urban, but I bet you I did well in them as well. Certainly $1.5 million in negative ads by my opponents just the last week and a half. You couldn't watch TV in the Philadelphia area without seeing me destroying the city and the state about every 15 minutes. So it was good that people remember what I did when I was a mayor of an urban area, of how bad things were when I became mayor in Atlantic City, and of the improvements that I was able to make, and how I want to represent them, be their voice. And I've always considered myself a diplomat. Sometimes diplomacy doesn't work, so you do the diplomatic end, but when it doesn't work, then you have to fight.
It seems like, listen, I'm a pretty progressive guy. You're a moderate Republican. We're not going to agree on everything, but I actually remember when you were the mayor of Atlantic City, and I remember you stabilizing the mess that was created by other people. And Atlantic City was in free fall, and I think you were relentlessly optimistic and hardworking to do your best to sort of triage a situation that it looks like the Democrats actually created. The Democrats and Chris Christie, who you fought really hard against. So I'm happy to take the opportunity to clear that record. Like, you seem like you were the best thing that happened to Atlantic City at a really, really difficult time, and they're spending millions of dollars trying to blame you for what they did. So this win has to be extra satisfying because of that.
It is, and I'm glad that a lot of people remember what it was like and what I had done, and that we really haven't seen the progress. So the state took over, with their tens of millions of dollars, but Atlantic City is no better in the last 4 years. It's a shame to see them riding my coattails, but not making the improvements that could have continued. So we should have continued to expand the college, continue with housing, continue with paving the streets, continue with new job growth and things. And I didn't see that coming, but I will be working especially on those issues there in trying to get new businesses down to Atlantic County so we can create the jobs, and I think to do everything we can when it comes to bias. And the bias, that I see down here is specifically against Asians, against Muslims. LGBTQ has done very well in Atlantic City, so that's my base. Gays have been accepted down here since World War I or so. But we need to reach out beyond that. And I need to reach out through the rest of the state to make sure that we don't have that inequality.